Wow, we had an amazing event yesterday. So yesterday we actually had the event where we had adults sharing their stories. So similar to today, we had adults sharing their stories about what it's like to live with a mental condition. We also had family members and friends sharing their experience of actually living with a condition. And is that me? Am I up? I think so.
Yes, ma'am, that's you. You're ready to go.
We are ready to rock and roll. So first of all, as Trent shared, this is the inaugural event. So yesterday was the adult event and today is the youth event, where we are speaking out about living with a mental condition. I will share a little bit more of my story as we go through this presentation. So are we ready to rock and roll? Yay! Okay, let's see if I can get this mouse to work. I had challenges with it yesterday. So we're going to start off with a video.
As I'm going into another year of life, you know what I'm saying, wiser, I'm definitely seeing things different than how I used to see them. And I just wanted to speak on it and share, because a lot of y'all need insight just like I do and probably felt similar too. But, around this time last year, around my birthday, it was good for me, but it was wild for me too because I felt like something wasn't all the way connecting with my energy. I'm big on energy. And I wasn't feeling like myself and I couldn't figure out why, So what I did was I stepped back from everything I was doing, everything I had going on, because somewhere in the middle of it, I just felt lost, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't know how I got there. And I've been meditating since I was 17 years old, and that helps with like anxiety, depression, all those things that I felt in my life, but it wasn't doing it all the way for this. So I knew that this required some special attention. So what I did was I started therapy, you know what I'm saying? I got a good therapist, you know what I'm saying? I was blessed enough to talk to some super spiritual people, and they made me realize one thing that I was missing in my life, and one thing I was missing was clarity. You know what I'm saying? I needed clarity, and clarity about who was around me, what I was doing. Even the music, which is like my happiness, my joy, that was always an escape for me, was starting to feel like a burden. It was starting to feel like a job. The relationships around me, people I was growing up with, I had like a lot of toxic relationships around me. Even the relationship with my mom was like getting to a point where we wasn't talking like that. And it was just weird, because that had never been like that with me and her. So I realized that it all started with me and I had to analyze myself. I couldn't point the finger at anybody else. I had to point it at myself and, nurture those relationships that were important to me, but most importantly, nurture the relationship with myself. I started realizing that, you can't give or depend on somebody for love or a good time and all that if you can't give it to yourself, dog, right? So, I started doing things by myself or just doing things I never thought I'd do, like going skydiving, just whatever I thought was fun, just doing it, right? And in the midst of that, I definitely rediscovered myself and, found a whole new energy and me being the source of it, not somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And now I started getting back to making the music and it started being fun again. And I'm making the best music of my life. You know what I'm saying? I started nurturing those relationships that were important to me and putting that time into that unconditional love. That conditional love is cool, that money, that instant gratification, but your foundation, what you stand on when everything else goes, is that unconditional love. So, hey man, put the energy back into yourself, be clear about what you want to do, who you want to do it with, and just know that it all translates to happiness, and it feels good to be back at a higher level.
Okay, does anybody know who that was? I think his name was on the first slide. Any of the young people know who that was? Big Sean, a rapper. I don't know who he is, but he's got a great message. And so listening to his message actually made me think about like Michael Jackson and the man in the mirror, and change actually starts with you. And that's what he learned. He had to learn to love himself. So I want to just take a pause and share with you that there is going to be many of the speakers sharing their stories. So you may feel triggered by the stories. And there is a Sandy Birchfield and her team from Family Life Counseling Center. In your program, there is I think it's on the second page, there is a text number there that if anybody feels like they need to go and step out and get help, then please just text that number and somebody will be there for you. And then there's also a disclaimer, which I understand didn't get into all of the programs. So I want to make sure that we are legally saying what we need to be saying. And the information shared during this event and the resources available are not intended as and shall not be understood or construed as medical or health advice. So unless the person actually states that they are a medical professional or a licensed mental health professional, we always advise you to go to your healthcare provider, whoever that is, to ensure that before you start to do anything, that you actually speak to them first of all. So we're ready to go on a journey. Yes, we are ready to go on a journey. Okay, so what I would like you to do, for those of you, wherever you are watching this, I want you just to take a moment and look at yourself. Look at the people around you. Just look at yourself. Look at your body. Just take a moment, look at yourself. I have a question. Does anybody here see a headless person? No? Absolutely not. And wonder why that is. It's because we are one body, right? We are connected. And so why is it that we find it difficult to talk about issues from here to here, and it's okay that we talk about issues from here to here? It is actually amazing because at the end of the day, we are one body. Oh. Let me make sure I'm going the right way. There you go. So we are one body system. And as you can see from this, we are a complex system. You will see that in the internal organs, they're all connected. And you see that the brain is actually connected to the gut and the stomach. So isn't it amazing when you feel fearful or you're anxious, you get those butterflies in your stomach? It's because we're all connected. Look at the circulatory system, the nervous system and the muscular system. We're all connected. So why is it that when it comes to mental health that we talk as though we're disconnected? And so we are here. You are all part of this amazing event where we are really taking a stand to end the stigma of mental health and change the conversation to brain health. So what if we were to change the conversation from mental health to brain health? Imagine what that would do in our society. Imagine what it would do with our family and friends. Imagine, when I had my first suicide attempt in the summer of 2014, I had friends who loved me, and they would tell me I just needed to pray more and I needed more faith. It's not a sin issue, it's not a faith issue, it's a brain issue, it's a medical issue. So I'm just going to take you on my journey. So you're actually going to get a peek behind the curtains of my life. So I was born in Liverpool, England, in December 1964. So I'm 57. am proud that I actually have lived this long, because I don't think I was meant to. Well, I was meant to. So you'll see that where I was born, I didn't actually come from like a family of wealth. I came from a family that was very dysfunctional. I came from a family where my father was an alcoholic. I came from a family where I was the eldest of 5, and I was beaten whenever my dad got drunk, and my mom got beaten as well. So but I didn't realize like how bad it was until probably I came to America, and I was like, oh my goodness, I think I lived in the project version in England, but I didn't know any better. And so in terms of my journey, like all of our journeys, right, we have ups and downs. That's life. Life is like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's an amazing roller coaster, and sometimes you're going through that dark tunnels where you have no idea what's going to happen until the roller coaster comes out on the other side. So there were many, many triggers and events in my life that led to both my first and second suicide attempts. And this just is some of the highlights. What I'd like to point out, though, is in 2014, after my first suicide attempt, I was actually diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And so for the longest time, actually up until last week, I would say that I live with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And I just want to give a warning now, because I'm going to play a audio. The audio is actually of a voicemail that I left to my dear girlfriend in August of 2020. So just 2 years ago.
Need to call me back. Thank you. Just calling to let you know that I'm still not in a good place. So still need your prayers, please. We moved into a rental house. It's just all a bit of a nightmare situation, to tell you the truth. But we've moved into a rental, and what else can I tell you? Moved into a rental. I'm still just staying on the sofa most of the day. I can't see beyond this at all. I appreciate and cherish your prayers, and thank you for just being a friend. Not just being a friend, but for being a friend, and for your faithfulness as well. As I say, please, no need to call me back. Took me all the courage to make this call. Love you, and hopefully get to speak to you sometime in the not too distant future. When I call again, I'll try and call again. It's about 4:15 on Monday. I thought you may be finished from work. I don't know what your work schedule is. All right, I love you. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
So that was on the 31st of August, 2020. And you can see how that was a medical issue, because when you're under stress and when you're in a depressed state, it actually affects like your vocal cords and like the way you are able to communicate. On 24th of September, 2020, so just 2 years ago, yesterday, I attempted suicide for the second time. I know what it's like to be in that deepest, darkest pit where you really don't believe that there's any way out. And the reason for this event is to let you all know, to let the world know that it's temporary. You can get out. There is hope. Recovery is possible. I am a living witness to that. I'm a walking testimony. And you know what? It breaks my heart so much when I hear that people have actually died by suicide. It hurts my heart so much because I know how they felt. I obviously don't know exactly why they did it, what was going through their minds. It hurts my heart because of the stigma that they think that this is the only way out. For myself and for those who have attempted suicide, you will hear us say that, honestly, we really don't want to die. We don't. We just don't know how to live anymore. And we feel like that's the only way. On September 24th, 2020, I got my little Kiara Lara, who actually had to be put asleep last Monday, believe it or not. I got on the sofa with her and I hugged her and I said, Kiara, let's just wait and see how long it takes me to die. I really didn't want to. Thankfully, that in that voicemail, having family members, having friends to support you, having God is really important. So don't give up on your loved ones. Don't give up on yourself. So this is my journey, and this is just in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, all of this has happened. So after my second attempt, I went into an inpatient facility for 75 days in Orange County. I was in outpatient for 6 weeks, and I really didn't know what to do in my life. I'd been in corporate America. I worked as a management consultant for the #1 consulting firm in the world. So I was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to do? I'm going to be a long-distance truck driver? I don't think so. And so I took a moment to really, you saw on the last slide, to surrender. So I call my 2014 suicide attempt, I actually call that my Jonah moment. So for any of you that are familiar with the Bible, and even if you're not, we all probably know the story of Jonah and the whale, where God told Jonah to do something, and Jonah said no, and so he ended up in a whale for 3 days. Well, I call my Jonah moment 6 years in corporate America. So I heard the Lord in September of 2014 tell me mental health advocacy. And I was like, absolutely not. No way. I'm not doing that. I don't want that label. I don't want that stigma. But I did actually say, I said to God, you know what? I'll be light. I'll be light. I will not live in shame. If anybody wants to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But I'm not going around like I do now with my car wrapped. I'm not going around with a banner saying, hey, this is what happened to me. And in April 2020 was my Job moment where everything got ripped from underneath me, and God used many different situations to wake me up and say, what are you doing? So in April of 2021, I literally stood there in my office bedroom and I said, Lord, I have no idea what this is going to look like, but I know you do. I have no idea what mental health advocacy looks like, but I know you do. So, okay, I'm going to step out in faith. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to trust you, and I'm just going to do it. Fast forward, April 2022, I'm now selected as a national speaker for the American Association of Suicidology. It's like, you can't make this stuff up, right? And so I'm just on a mission to change one person. For me, I don't look at numbers. I don't look at how many people are following me. I don't look at how many seats are taken in the theater. I don't look at how many people are looking at this online. What's really important to me is that one person that needs to hear this. What's really important to me is just about the one. Because you know what? When the one gets it, then they tell others, who tell others, who tell others, who tell others. So it's that ripple effect. So that's what it's about. And you are all part of that ripple effect. And maybe you are the one here today that needs to hear this. You may actually be thinking about taking your own life. And look at me. You're here for a purpose. You're worth it. You're here for a purpose. You're on this earth for a reason. So I introduce myself these days as Elaine Sephton, a brain health warrior and a mental health crusader. So this is the definition of a warrior, somebody who really wants to be at the top of their game. So what did I do? Just this year, I became a licensed brain health trainer with Dr. Amen. Dr. Amen went into psychiatry after he was in the military, and he said, why is it that for psychiatrists, we're the only medical field that does not get to look at the organ that's sick? So a cardiologist looks at the heart, a pulmonologist looks at the lungs. You even have cosmetologists who look at skin and face, but nobody looks at the brain. So he wanted to make a difference, and he is doing, and I am part of his team of brain health warriors to make a difference. And you'll see from this image that it's not just about the brain. Remember, it's biological, psychological, social, and spiritual. And when I say spiritual, yes, I am a Jesus freak, and yes, I believe in the Trinity, and I believe in the Lord my God. But I know that not everybody else does. But even in AA, in NA, they talk about having a higher power. They talk about, okay, where are you getting your source of strength from? Because it's not about you. So these next few slides are from a program that I am trained to deliver. And it's specifically chosen these for this audience because the audience is a youth audience. And it's from a program called Brain Thrive by 25. So I'm going to quickly go through these slides just to give you a taste. And I'm hoping that it really speaks to the parents in this audience to see how and why the youth and teens are acting the way that they do. And for the youth in this audience, I hope you get to see the importance of loving your brain and not just following the crowd. So when your brain works right, you work right. So these are pictures of a healthy and unhealthy brain. If you have a healthy brain, you actually live a longer, happier, prosperous life. And I say that because you can make right decisions because you've got a healthy brain. If you've got an unhealthy brain, you're less successful, basically. You're sadder, sicker. These are pictures of brains. We can get pictures of brains these days. The whole field of neuroscience and neurology is growing so much. What we know today was nothing what we knew even 5 years ago. So I do believe God is in it. I believe God is in science. Like, he's over everything, and he's revealing little things at moments in time to help the doctors and the specialists help us. So this is a picture of a healthy SPECT scan. This is a type of scan. It's the surface of the brain. It's super smooth. It's super healthy. And this is one of an unhealthy brain. These are not actual holes in your brain. What they are is areas of low activity where your brain's basically not working. So I recently went for a SPECT scan because I fell over, stumbled when I thought I could play tennis after 40 years. So I fell over, split open the back of my neck, my head, and so I was like, okay, this is a good reason to go and get a SPECT scan. So this is my brain. And the doctor actually, so the psychiatrist, I had to go to South Florida, I had to pay for it myself, and the psychiatrist actually spent 90 minutes on the phone on a Zoom call, going through my results with me. Did you hear what I say? 90 minutes with a psychiatrist. How many people get 90 minutes with a psychiatrist? Yeah, not many. So he said, I have a healthy, young, beautiful brain. I was like, oh, brilliant. And so your brain is involved in basically everything you do. You saw the body, you saw the way the body is all connected. And so your brain is involved in everything that you do. If you think about it, we don't talk about the brain, and yet the brain is the only organ that you can't live without. If you think about it, you can have a heart transplant, a liver transplant, you can get everything transplanted. Well, actually, you can take your spleen out, but you can't transplant it, but you can still live with it. You can't live without your brain. You can't transplant it. So why don't we take care of it? Because, like, I don't know, the stigma in mental health, I don't know what it is, why we don't educate people about the brain. Maybe because we're just learning. So your brain is ridiculously complex. And so it's involved in everything that we do. And did you know that 20% of the oxygen and blood flow is actually taken from the brain? Did you actually know, though, that 90% of your serotonin is in your gut and it's not in your brain? So actually, you are what you eat as well. Did you know that males have 10% more neurons and females have more connections? Maybe that's because we're like more empathetic. I don't know. Did you know that even though you're classed as an adult at the age of 18, you are not actually fully developed in your brain? Did you know that your brain actually develops from the back to the front? And it's actually the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes all the decisions, that develops the last. Did you know that there's nothing that is normal? We talk about normal, but what really is normal? Normal is a setting on a dishwasher or a piece of laundry equipment. It's a place in Illinois. I challenge anybody to show me a picture of a normal person, because everybody's got issues. Did you also know that you're not stuck with your brain? In the past, we used to think what we were born with is what we had. Now, through neuroscience and all like the new revelations that we're having, is you can actually change your brain. I've seen evidence of an 80-year-old brain actually changing because they did some simple things like drink more water, eat more healthy, do exercise, sleep well. Why is it important? So some of these statistics are pretty amazing and frightening and illuminating all at the same time. 50% of students with a mental health issue will drop out of school. 65 to 75% of jail teens have a mental illness or a brain injury. We need to be educating our youth about the importance of loving your brain. Did you know that 86% of teens know someone with a mental health issue? I bet you if I asked the question of the audience, how many of you know somebody who has a mental health issue, you would all raise your hands. Did you know that over 84% say there's a stigma surrounding mental health? Did you know that nearly 50% of teens have actually contemplated suicide? Did you know because you have a lack of prefrontal cortex control, which is basically the front of your brain, did you know that as a youth, if you're younger than 25 for females and 28 for males, that's the reason why you can't make the right decisions? That you are like driven by your emotions and not by logic? Did you know that peer pressure doesn't just come from peers, it actually comes from yourself? How many of you actually think about what people are thinking about you? Did you know that at the age of 13, you're actually thinking more about what people are thinking about you? Did you know that by the age of 40, you actually don't care what people are thinking about you? And by the age of 60, you realize that really nobody was thinking about you. And you've wasted your whole life wondering what people are thinking about you. Did you know, and I know we've all heard it, but multitasking is actually not good for your brain and doesn't work? Did you know you can only focus on one thing at a time? And listening to the right music helps and the wrong music doesn't help? Did you know that most of our teens are using social media and it is really destroying them and it's destroying their brains? Did you know that these are the things that actually rob you having a healthy brain? Lots of different things rob your brain. Did you know that it doesn't take medication all the time, depending on your personal situation to improve your brain health. There's lots of things that you can do to improve your brain health without taking medication. Here's a picture of a healthy surface of the brain, and here's an unhealthy brain because of drug abuse. You might think I'm not taking drugs, but if you smoke, you are taking drugs. If you eat too much sugar, you are taking drugs. Your brain knows no difference between sugar and a drug. It just gives you the same high as another drug. Did you know that this is what dehydration does to your brain? So remember, if you've got an unhealthy brain, then you are not able to perform as well. Did you know that we all have a good brain and we all have a desire to make our brains greater? I'm not saying that we have bad brains. You might have an unhealthy brain. Did you know that your brain matters and that everybody's brain matters? Your teacher's brains, your parents' brains. I talked about that, about the brain developing from the back to the front. And if you have problems, these are some of the issues, and this is how it shows up. And when it's too low, it can actually come out in some of these behaviors. And quite often, I believe that, and actually I don't believe it, I know it because of research and evidence, that when we are told that our children have ADHD and all those kinds of things, that never existed in my lifetime when I was a child. I just was like playing outside and having fun and, but now so many of our children are medicated and it's impacting their ability to be successful. Did you know that 82% of teens report failing goals they set for themselves because they really don't know how to set goals? So simple things to help your brain: taking fish oil, working out, exercising. Your brain matters. So you can actually learn about your brain. And I'm going to talk about one particular part of the brain because this is my brain. And I'll show you what it showed up as. So the cingulate gyrus is what actually controls like how you do things and decisions that you make in terms of you spend time on them or not. And if you have problems with your overactive cingulate gyrus, it shows up in these different ways. So for me, what that means is I can get stuck on things and I can keep saying no until like the cows come home. You can't convince me to change. It shows up like I could ruminate and just keep going round in circles and never going anywhere. So here's my brain, the inside of my brain. I don't have major depressive disorder. I don't have generalized anxiety disorder. I do have an overactive cingulate gyrus. For me, at the moment, that means that I do have to take medication, but I also have to drink water more. I have to exercise more. I have to sleep better. So the things that I have to do in order to make my brain more healthy. You'll see that this is actually, when I was having my consultation, this image is from the results, and the yellow cursor actually shows that if I had a red mark or a white mark in that area, because that shows overactivity, that I would have had PTSD. But because I didn't, I am overactive, which shows up in anxiety. So you may have an overactive cingulate gyrus, and it might be like why you hear things like, don't tell me what to do. I'm sure nobody says that to their parents. The real reason for not doing drugs is it actually damages your brain. If it damages your brain, it means you don't function well. Marijuana damages the brain, and if you use it before the age of 25, it's actually worse. Most teens don't use drugs or alcohol for the first time because of peer pressure. A lot of time, they ask for them to use them without any pressure because they just really want to see maybe what it does. A healthy brain. This is your brain if you're taking cocaine or meth. This is your brain if you drink alcohol and take heroin. Alcoholism and alcohol is like the #1 cause of death. Here's your brain if you're taking marijuana. So really you have to think about what brain do you want? Do you actually want to? So most people say, well, I take drugs because, they make me feel happier, they make me feel better, but really it doesn't. Like sugar, as I say, is a drug. Why shouldn't you take drugs or any substance abuse? Because it changes your brain. Lots of things hurt your brain. I know sleep is a problem with our youth. Sleep is super important. I know sleep is a problem because youth will tell me that they're up in the middle of the night on their cell phones, and I challenge them to go one night without their phone, and they freak out and like, well, you're addicted to it. But you need to sleep to change your brain, to change your life. These are some of the short-term effects and long-term effects of not having enough sleep. How many of you really had a good quality 7 hours sleep last night? This is what robs your sleep. This is what enhances your sleep. Simple things like sleeping in a dark room, having your room cool, getting rid of your blue lights. Many of you may smoke. Technology causes us so much great and so much problems. We have to control it. So let me ask you, I'm going to leave you with this question and a short video, but let me ask you, really, I hear youth say to me, but, that just means that life's boring and I just don't have fun, because I work with youth. And, well, you have a choice, right? You can make a decision. At the end of the day, who really is going to have the better life? The one with the healthy brain or the one with the unhealthy brain? So it's up to you to make that choice. Your future actually depends on it. It might be for now, but what about in 10, 20, 30, 40 years' time when you're dealing with the issues of an unhealthy brain? So remember, we're all connected, and it's important that you take care of the whole person. And so Robin Williams is like my hero for many different reasons. And he actually took his own life the week that I was in hospital from my first suicide attempt. So I'm going to leave you with these words. It's like a minute long, and then I'm going to call up our first speaker.
As we come to the end of this phase of our life, we find ourselves trying to remember the good times and trying to forget the bad times. And we find ourselves thinking about the future. We start to worry, thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to be in 10 years? But I say to you, hey, look at me. Please, don't worry so much. Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish, and think of me, and make your life spectacular. I know I did.
You have one life, and it's up to you, the choice that you have in this life. And those choices will impact the way your brain is and how healthy it is, which will then impact your future. So thank you, everyone. So I can say to the youth, I couldn't really say this yesterday, to the adult audience, like, you can follow me. You can use hashtags, because I know that works with youth more than adults. So thank you all so much. I hope that gave you an insight into brain health.